The chill of the night air seeped through the cracks in the window, sending shivers down my spine as I stared at the faded sign that read Riverside Inn. It was an old, decrepit hotel that had stood there for generations, its walls stained with the memories of the past. Little did I know, as I stepped inside that eerie place, that I was about to uncover the haunted truth about a murderous hotel room. As I entered the lobby, the air hung heavy with a sense of foreboding, as though the very walls were whispering tales of the past. The receptionist, a gaunt-looking man with hollow eyes, handed me the key to room 13 with a nervous tremor in his hands. I couldn't help but feel a knot tighten in my stomach as I made my way to the room. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit space that seemed to echo with the voices of the long-departed. I switched on the flickering light, casting eerie shadows across the walls. The room was frozen in time, the furnishings draped in dusty sheets, and the air thick with the scent of mildew. As I looked around, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that unseen eyes were following my every move. With a deep breath, I decided to unravel the mystery that shrouded room 13. The story, as I had heard, was that decades ago, a gruesome murder had taken place within these very walls. A jealous lover, consumed by rage, had ended the life of his partner in a fit of madness. The details were sketchy, but the locals spoke of strange occurrences in the room ever since that fateful night. I pulled out my notebook and pen, determined to document my findings. As I delved into the history of the hotel, I discovered that the victim's name was Emily, a young woman who had checked into the Riverside Inn with dreams of a better life. Her lifeless body had been discovered on the very bed I was now sitting on, her eyes wide open in terror, forever etched into the fabric of the room. With a sense of trepidation, I decided to conduct a séance, hoping to communicate with the spirit of Emily and unravel the truth behind her tragic demise. The room fell silent as I lit candles and chanted ancient incantations, my voice barely above a whisper. The air grew heavy, and suddenly, I felt a presence in the room, a cold breeze brushing against my skin. "Who are you?" a voice echoed in my mind, sending chills down my spine. It was Emily, her spirit reaching out from the afterlife, eager to tell her story. I asked her about the night of her death, and as she spoke, the room seemed to come alive with her presence. She described the murderer, a man named Samuel, whose face contorted with madness as he took her life. As Emily's tale unfolded, I felt a mix of horror and sadness. She had been a victim of love gone wrong, her dreams snuffed out in an instant. The room itself seemed to absorb her anguish, the very walls bearing witness to her suffering. I could feel her pain, her fear, and her longing for justice. Determined to help Emily find peace, I delved deeper into the history of Samuel. It turned out he had been a frequent guest at the Riverside Inn, a man with a dark past and a penchant for violence. He had disappeared after the murder, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. With the newfound information, I vowed to uncover the truth and bring closure to Emily's restless spirit. Days turned into weeks as I tirelessly researched Samuel's background, following leads and connecting the dots. My efforts led me to a small town nearby, where I discovered that Samuel had been living under a new identity, haunted by the guilt of his crime. With the evidence I had gathered, I contacted the authorities, leading to his arrest and eventual confession. As the truth came to light, a sense of justice washed over me, knowing that Emily's spirit could finally rest in peace. The Riverside Inn, once a place of horror, now stood as a symbol of redemption. The locals whispered tales of the brave soul who had uncovered the haunted truth about a murderous hotel room, a story that would be passed down through generations. Leaving the Riverside Inn behind, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. The echoes of the past lingered in my mind, a reminder of the darkness that could hide behind even the most ordinary facades. As I walked away, I hoped that Emily's story would serve as a cautionary tale, a reminder that the truth, no matter how hidden, would always find its way to the surface. Grand Victorian mansion, there resided an elegant grand piano, its keys once vibrant with music, now silenced by time. Little did I know that this piano held the key to a spectral world, a world where the boundary between the living and the dead blurred into a haunting melody. The mansion, an opulent yet foreboding structure, had always intrigued me, but I never anticipated the chilling encounter that awaited me within its walls. One night, driven by an insatiable curiosity, I found myself drawn to the parlor where the grand piano stood. The moonlight filtered through the ornate curtains, casting a ghostly glow upon the keys. With trembling fingers, I pressed a key, producing a melancholic note that hung in the air like a lament. To my astonishment, the room seemed to respond, the very walls vibrating with an unseen energy. As I continued to play, the atmosphere grew heavy with anticipation. It was as if the mansion itself held its breath, waiting for the music to unfold the secrets hidden within its chambers. That's when I heard it, a faint, distant melody, echoing through the halls. I dismissed it as a figment of my imagination, but the notes grew louder, more distinct, until it became undeniable. In the dead of night, I found myself entwined in a spectral symphony, the piano keys moving beneath my fingers with a life of their own. The room filled with a haunting melody, and I realized I was now alone. A figure materialized beside the piano, the phantom pianist. His eyes were hollow, yet they held a profound sadness, a longing for the music that had once consumed his soul. We played together, the living and the dead, our fingers dancing across the keys in a macabre duet. The music told a story of heartbreak and despair, of a life cut short and dreams left unfulfilled. With each note, the phantom pianist's story unfolded, a gifted musician, driven to madness by unrequited love, who had met a tragic end within these very walls. Despite the chilling circumstances, I felt a strange sense of camaraderie with the ghostly pianist. We communicated through the music, our emotions intertwining in a beautiful yet sorrowful harmony. It was a connection that transcended the boundaries of life and death, a testament to the power of music to bridge the gap between worlds. As the night wore on, the phantom pianist's ethereal form began to fade, his music growing fainter with each passing moment. I played with all my heart, desperate to prolong our connection, but he slipped away, leaving me alone in the parlor. The room was silent once more, the grand piano standing as a silent witness to the supernatural encounter that had taken place. In the days that followed, I often found myself drawn back to the parlor, my fingers tracing the keys in search of the phantom pianist's haunting melody. But he never returned, leaving me with a bittersweet memory of our spectral encounter. The mansion, once a place of mystery and allure, had become a sanctuary of the supernatural, a reminder that the boundaries between the living and the dead were not always as rigid as they seemed. The experience left me with a profound sense of awe and reverence for the supernatural forces that dwell within the world. It was a reminder that even in the most unexpected places, one could encounter the inexplicable, and that sometimes, the line between reality and the supernatural was far thinner than we dared to imagine. The phantom pianist had taught me a valuable lesson, that the language of music could transcend the boundaries of life and death, weaving a tapestry of connection that defied the limitations of our mortal existence. Our family, amidst the comforting warmth of generational stories and heirlooms, lurked an ominous secret, a dollhouse. It wasn't just any dollhouse, it was a relic from the past, a sinister creation with a curse woven into its miniature walls. Passed down through the ages, the dollhouse had a reputation for something far more sinister than its delicate facade suggested. I had always been drawn to its eerie charm, unaware of the darkness it held within. One fateful night, curiosity got the better of me. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow through the windows of our ancestral home. The silence of the night was broken only by the creaking of floorboards as I made my way to the attic, where the dollhouse was kept. Its miniature windows, so innocently inviting, seemed to beckon me closer. With trembling hands, I opened the fragile latch and peered inside. Little did I know, I was about to unravel a tale of horror that would haunt my dreams for years to come. As the attic door creaked shut behind me, the tiny, ghostly figures within the dollhouse stirred to life. Their movements were hauntingly lifelike, a spectral reenactment of a gruesome murder that had occurred centuries ago. The family of dolls, once innocent playthings, now danced in the moonlight, their porcelain faces twisted in agony. I stood frozen, watching in disbelief as the ghostly figures began to leave the confines of the dollhouse. They moved with purpose, their ethereal presence filling the room. Their mournful cries filled the air, and objects around the attic started to move of their own accord. The curse had awakened, and there was no escaping its malevolent grasp. Terrified, I sought the help of a paranormal investigator, a courageous soul who dared to tread the line between the living and the dead. Together, we delved into the history of the cursed dollhouse, unearthing a tale of betrayal and revenge that had stained its walls. The spirits within the dollhouse were restless, seeking retribution for the injustice that had befallen them. With trembling hands, we performed a ritual to appease the vengeful spirits. Incense filled the air as we chanted ancient words, hoping to bring peace to the tormented souls. The room grew colder, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Suddenly, the ghostly figures froze, their cries silenced. A profound stillness settled over the attic, and I knew, in that moment, that the curse had been lifted. The dollhouse, once a source of terror, now stood innocuous in the corner of the attic. The malevolent energy that had once consumed it was gone, replaced by an eerie calm. The investigator and I exchanged a knowing glance, acknowledging the gravity of what we had just witnessed. The spirits had found their peace, and the curse that had plagued our family for generations was finally broken. I left the attic with a mix of relief and sadness, the weight of the experience settling on my shoulders. The cursed dollhouse was now just a dollhouse again, its secrets buried with the spirits that had haunted it. Yet, the memory of that night would forever linger in my mind, a chilling reminder of the supernatural forces that could lurk within the most innocent of objects. The dollhouse had taught me a valuable lesson, that some mysteries were best left undisturbed, and that the past, no matter how deeply buried, could resurface with a vengeance. It was a night etched in my memory, one that still sends shivers down my spine whenever I think about it. The old mansion stood tall and imposing, its decaying facade barely visible under the veil of darkness. We, a group of daring friends, decided to explore the rumored haunted house that had intrigued the town for generations. Armed with nothing but flashlights and the bravado of youth, we cautiously crossed the threshold. As we entered, a sudden drop in temperature clung to the air like a ghostly presence. A hushed whisper seemed to resonate from the very walls, chilling us to the bone. In the feeble glow of our flashlights, we witnessed apparitions materializing before us, the specters of a family, their eyes hollow with despair. They moved silently, drifting from room to room, their ethereal forms sending shockwaves through our frightened souls. Suddenly, a gust of frigid wind swept through the corridor, slamming doors shut behind us, imprisoning us within the haunted realm. The whispers grew louder, weaving a tale of betrayal and revenge that echoed through the ages. We were paralyzed by fear, unable to escape the clutches of the vengeful spirits that held us captive. In the dim light, we saw the tragedy unfold, a story of treachery and sorrow that had stained the walls of the mansion. The family, once bound by love, had met a gruesome end within these very walls, their souls forever trapped in the purgatory of the afterlife. The anguish in their eyes mirrored our own terror, and in that moment, we felt an overwhelming surge of empathy for the tortured spirits. With sheer willpower, we managed to break free from the ghostly prison, stumbling out into the night, our hearts pounding with a mixture of relief and dread. We vowed never to speak of the horrors we had witnessed, but the images of the grieving family haunted my dreams, a constant reminder of the supernatural forces that lurked in the darkness. As the years passed, the memory of that night faded, yet the whispering walls of the old mansion continued to haunt my thoughts. I often wondered about the tragic family, their unfinished business tethering them to the mortal realm. The experience left me with a newfound respect for the supernatural, a reminder that there are mysteries in this world that defy explanation. Even now, I can hear the echoes of those whispers, carried on the wind, a chilling reminder of the night I ventured into the haunted house and came face to face with the sorrowful souls that dwelt within its walls. The memory lingers, a ghostly presence in the recesses of my mind, a tale of horror that will forever be etched in my soul.